Hello! Welcome to the Monday mystery meeting. This is where you're going to get really confused because right now I'm wearing a pink stripy shirt, but when the meeting happens, I'm not. Giveaway, I'm not recording the intro on the same day. Anyway, thank you for joining us for the Monday mystery meeting. This is the fifth one. I can't believe it's the fifth one already. We've had Claire Oates, we've had Elaine Webb, we've had Vicky Vincent, we've had Peter Hall, and I want to thank you for all four of those people that have shared just some of what life looks like in lockdown for them. I've been really encouraged by it. I hope you have too. Again, I filmed this after the Wednesday evening prayer meeting, and I had such great fun just chatting. So I really hope you're encouraged by this week's Monday mystery meeting. Here goes. Hello, welcome to the Monday Mystery Meeting, and as you can see, we have a couple with us this week. We have Dave and Gemma Sherwood. Hello, Dave and Gemma.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, how are you both?
I'm really good.
So,
Yeah,
we're good, thank
we're
you.
really good.
But see, you're good. You've got matching clothes. It matches the wall. It matches the guitar. Was it planned?
No, or else I'd have worn black.
Your life is just that much in sync. That's how well it works.
Yeah, and it's really, really hot today.
Yeah.
It is. I'm in like really tight jeans, and they're a different color. I've sweated that much. It's really grim.
Nice.
I managed to burn my knees sitting out with James in the garden for 10 minutes earlier on today. So.
Oh, driving down to church this evening, I drove past so many people that were just pink from head to toe. I was like, mistake, you've been out all day. But thank you for agreeing to do the Monday Mystery Meeting. So, yeah, why don't we start just by telling us a bit about yourselves, your family, your work. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay.
Okay. So we are Dave and Gemma Sherwood. We live in Blakedown. So a little bit away from Bewdley. We've
just in the Wyre Forest, though. You are just
yes,
in the line.
Yeah.
We have James and Lily. James is 9 and 11/12ths, as he likes to tell me. And Lily is 7. And
It's good you get their ages right. That's important. That's a good start.
And I am a secondary school maths teacher.
And I'm a building service engineer.
Wow. So completely different like workplaces. So do you like have much to talk about when you come home, or is it that awkward silence as one of you talks about work and the other one sort of zones out going, I've got no idea what you're talking about?
It depends who's had the worst day to who talks the most about their day, I think.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or Dave will talk a lot about lots of engineering and building stuff, and I'll nod.
Feels appropriate just to go, yeah, okay.
And do you know what? Actually, education is not a bad subject to listen to. It's when Gemma and her brother start laughing at mathematical jokes.
Oh my goodness.
That's when it gets really painful.
What do you do at that point? Do you just like stare off into the distance, or do you try and join in as if you understand?
I'm not too sure whether to laugh and pretend that I'm clever enough to understand it, or whether they're actually just having me on. It's not really a joke. It's not funny, and they're just trying to make me look even worse.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. So obviously you both have jobs which would normally require, before lockdown, before coronavirus, you going out, being with people, doing various things. But obviously you can't do that in lockdown. So what has life looked like for the pair of you over the last 9 weeks?
Yeah, I guess if I go first, because education's very different. So construction industry never actually stopped. So the government wanted it to carry on and work as normal. Unfortunately, the suppliers did stop because they're retail outlets. So none of the construction workers could get their materials to be on site and to work as the government would have liked to kind of help the economy keep going. And similarly, a lot of the building sites had to shut as well because of distancing and working sensibly and safe. They just couldn't have enough people building buildings, so it got too expensive. So now they've just started to pick up. So I was furloughed for, I think, was it a month or 6 weeks? Yeah, which was brilliant. So I love that. It's like a 6-week holiday. And I know the pay was a bit less, but you can't really spend it either. So it's...
No, it's fair.
So I've been back this week, and building sites are starting to pick up. So I was back on site today, just doing the walk-arounds and seeing what everybody's up to and everything else. And there's a few projects that I've got on that are very remote, so I can kind of attend site whenever I like there.
Great.
So yeah, so it's all back up and as normal. Just working from home rather than the office, but we're allowed into the office if we need to pick up things. So yeah.
Wow, so you had almost 6 weeks off and then
Yeah.
back to it again.
Okay, yeah, and I think construction industry seems to be pretty good as well, which is always really nice to hear, because obviously that's a big driving force behind the economy and crashes and everything else. But everybody literally just went on hold and everyone's picked it back up. So order books are good and everything else. So as fast as the supply chain can start going, we should start moving.
That's really good news. So that's the construction industry. But Gemma, you've been teaching, or have you?
Yeah, so schools haven't been closed either. It's just been very, very different. We have remained open for children of key workers and for vulnerable children, those for whom being at home is not the better option. So I'm in secondary schools, so it's quite different. I think in the primary schools, like our kids' school, for instance, they've had quite a lot of kids in because they're younger. At secondary school, even if both parents are key workers, a lot of them are old enough to stay at home on their own all day. So we've had a small but regular number of kids going into school, but anywhere between 10 and 20 each week. So we have all, as a staff, been on a rota going into school to supervise them. And then all the time that you're not in school, there's been lots of things going on in the background. So we've been setting work and monitoring work and being in contact with our students, but throughout all of it, because things are still going on and we still want them to be getting on with work as much as they possibly can.
Good.
But then we've also recently, over the last couple of weeks, been planning for possible returns to school and the various forms that they may take, be it 1st of June, which is the date that's been touted, or be it later. Obviously, we don't entirely know yet, but there's been a lot going on in the background for that as well.
Wow. Do you feel ready for some of the kids to come back to school, or is it still slightly worrisome for you?
It's worrisome in the sense that we don't really know how safe it is, because nobody really knows how safe it is. And until they go back and we have a few weeks for things to kind of bed in, and we've seen from the nature of this virus that it seems to be about 3 weeks before you see the effects of any change. So the 1st of June will be 3 weeks from when this kind of slightly eased version of the lockdown started. So we'll start to see then whether or not that's had any negative effects. From potentially from the 1st of June, from the 8th of June, what we're having on an invitation basis. They're not required to come. Not to send their children in for various reasons. But we are going to be having those students on mornings. But there's lots of considerations to do with that, such as have the same group of students and the same group of teachers in at the same time, so that if anybody comes down with any symptoms, that bubble has to then be able to isolate for 2 weeks. So we can't have mixing between fixed groups of students and teachers. So we've got about 180 students in year 10, which means across 5 days a week we'll have up to 36 students in once a week. With 3 members of staff. We're going to have English, maths and science teachers there with them to do some work with them in those mornings. And that's mainly because the government has asked us to make sure that we are giving them some kind of face-to-face contact. That in itself is very difficult to manage in terms of being able to have those small groups and to keep people at a sufficient distance and all those kinds of things. So that's really secondary to everything else that we're doing, which is work that we're setting and monitoring outside of that. And we're going to be doing things like video tutorials that they can come into using Microsoft Teams, which is like Zoom, so that they can have some kind of face-to-face contact with teachers that way as well.
Wow, so busy still in the midst of it all. I mean, but essentially, I'm assuming you've been home a lot more. So have you both been home, and what has the routine been for the Sherwood family over the last, couple of weeks then, as you've all been home together?
Yeah, I guess I know, like I say, furlough as well. There's always the little bits to do at work because it's project managing. You can't just go off and ignore everything. So there's the odd question to answer and things to do there. So Gemma's been with the children in the morning, homeschooling. So she's led with the English and maths and those kind of core subjects. And then in the afternoons, Gemma's kind of got on with her schoolwork and everything else, where I've led the fun projects. So just all the different things that kind of surround it. So everything, we had like a first aid afternoon, so we watched a lot of first aid videos, and I just like that much about first aid either, so we kind of learned it together.
You say you watch first aid videos. Did you really sit about and watch Casualty and say it was education?
No, of course not.
No, it was Operation Ouch,
yeah,
from BBC.
more at my level. And yeah, we've done like music afternoons. We've done different things about. We pick a different country each week to learn about. So
we wrote at the start loads of names of countries on little slips of paper and put them into a pot. So every Sunday, we don't know, one of the kids has to pick out a country, and then we have a themed day that week where they have to try, if it's possible, bearing in mind what we've got at home, they have to try and wear something that looks like it's from that country, and we look at maps and learn about the geography of the country, and we try and cook a meal from that country.
That sounds so much fun. So what's been your favourite country in lockdown?
Mine was Peru. We made a Peruvian dish, and we even, on your recommendation, subscribed to Disney Plus, and it turns out there's pretty much a Disney movie for every country.
I know, it's amazing.
So that's been fabulous.
Yeah.
It was agreed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you haven't been watching like Star Wars or the Marvel movies. You've been using Disney Plus to watch.
Yes,
Look, we've done that too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Marvel, yeah, we've finished the Marvel collection now.
In fact, Dave has also been working on the garden while he's been furloughed. So we had a massive big tree there when we first moved into the house that was blocking all the sunlight from one section. It wasn't a very nice tree, so we cut it down and just kind of buried it. But with all the stuff we're wanting to do now to try and do the garden properly, he decided that it's about time he got rid of this tree stump. And it was absolutely huge. We're talking probably about 4 foot in diameter, this tree stump, and really deep. And he's been digging at it for days and days. So in the end, Lily was going, why is Daddy constantly getting all frustrated with this tree stump? And the best way I could think of to explain it to her was because we just watched Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. I said, it's Daddy's Thanos, Lily. So, and then she completely got it, and she understood that this thing that he couldn't ever quite defeat was his Thanos.
I love that. I love how you just made that. That is amazing. So obviously, other than the tree being a massive challenge, what have been the challenges in the Sherwood house over lockdown?
Trying to keep the kids doing some semblance of work, but also not feeling like we're their teachers. Particularly because I'm a teacher too, it's really difficult to teach your own kids. It's really hard.
Yeah, do you make them call you Mrs. Sherwood?
No. Maybe that's where I went wrong.
You do give them the look.
I do give them the look. Yeah.
Can you do us the look?
No, well, there's no point, because he's completely undermined me with the look, because every time I started doing the look, he'd go, oh, Mummy's giving you the look. Oh, and now James just goes, oh, Mummy, you're giving me the look. So now the look doesn't work. It's lost all its power.
Dave, you've killed it. You've killed the look. Unbelievable.
When the kids come in again, Mummy's giving you the look, Dad.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, how hard has that been to homeschool kids then? Is that, just been, is it hard to stay mum and dad as you're trying to educate them?
On the whole experience for us has not been difficult. And I've spoken to different people that have had struggles in different areas, and to an extent, it's been a struggle to act, like when they ask me, because the furlough thing wasn't that bad. My job was very secure, so I know it was going to kick back in again. We live in a lovely area, so we get to go for nice walks. I think most people in Bewdley live in a similar situation, and you see people in London that have been really struggling with that.
Yeah.
We've got a really good friendship group. We've got a really good church group of people around us. So we've not really struggled, and I'm acutely aware that a lot of people really did struggle. We're all in good health, so there wasn't the main concerns about the virus, and there still isn't. You know, there's always, if we caught it, there's the odd freak occurrence and it might affect us badly, but statistically, it's not. So we're really, really fortunate. So it hasn't been that big a struggle. There's been bad days because the kids are tired and grumpy, and there's been bad days because we days, but that's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're really, really fortunate.
But
really.
And that's the thing I love to hear, that the fact that the way you've talked about it there, that actually you've been able, even during this lockdown, which has been such a worrying time for so many people, you've been able to actually see the positive in that. You've been able to look after each other as a family. Again, you've had some struggles, like, you know, being parents and teachers at the same time, but actually you've got your friendship group, you've got your wonderful surroundings. You've been able to allow those good things in life almost to just really speak to you at this time, as opposed to the fear of that seems to bounce around on social media and the news a little bit.
But we've been very careful about that as well. So we've been very conscious to not pay too much attention to it, to not read too much. We've watched the daily briefing on record, like as in we've recorded it and watched it later, so we can fast forward through loads of bits of it, because we've been it's very easy, especially in the age of 24-hour news, to have so much stuff thrown at you and people's speculations about what's going on, what might happen, what might not, and all these different things. It's very easy to take it all in and to focus on it and to let it get you down. But when you can kind of switch off from it and go, well, what's actually happening in my life right now, and what do I need to be focusing on, it makes the whole situation a huge amount easier, definitely.
It's finding that balance, isn't it, between it would be wrong to ignore all the news and ignore what's going on because it's a big deal, but equally you need to filter out who you're hearing from and what you're hearing. Is it the guy next door, or is it the Prime Minister? Is it the head of the NHS, or is it the local person that happens to know a friend that knows someone who works for the NHS somewhere? And you
seem to have managed your mental health at this time really, really well. You seem to have, you know, really have that outlook, which has been really helpful for you. What is that the biggest advice that you could probably give people who are watching this, maybe, of just be careful what you're watching, be careful what you're listening to on the news and social media?
You've got to protect your brain, because all this stuff will make you worry and make you panic, and the only way you'll not do that is if you actively protect yourself from it.
I mean, there's massive principles, isn't there, in life? Like your eyes are the window to your soul and things, and what, you know, we always talk in church, don't we, about what do we let our ears hear, our eyes see, and things, and you kind of forget actually that includes news and factual stuff as well as fiction and things, and you've got to be really careful, and at times like this you've got to protect yourself even more, because everybody's out their comfort zone and everybody's in a new thing. You know, people don't work from home, people don't suddenly, you know, people lose their jobs, but it's very rare a government says, actually, we'll pay you, don't work, we'll pay you. And it's really everything's strange, you know. We were saying yesterday, for a teacher especially, and those kind of professions where your year upon year is just governed on how it runs and how it should do, and all of a sudden that stops and they go, can you teach from home now? And that's a real big deal. And as well with I mean, one of your big pet hates is how the media portray teaching and teachers and stuff like that, and it's a real big thing where everybody's involved in education. So if you're not careful and you don't switch off from it, it can really bring you down, because the world gets at you.
There's a phrase we say to the kids when the kids say things like, oh, why can't I have that computer game, or why can't I watch that film, or whatever. The one thing we keep saying to them is, look, you can't ever unsee something, and you can't ever unhear something. And there is a time and a place when you will be ready to understand certain things, and now is not the time. And that's kind of a similar principle here. You can't unsee these things and you can't unhear these things, and once you start thinking about them, your brain will take them in all sorts of directions and do all sorts of things with them, and you have to you have to protect yourself from that as much as you possibly can.
Wow, I think that's amazing. I've never really heard the eyes being the window to the soul Bible verse applied to the news. I've always heard it applied to horror movies or people who wrestle with pornography, but I've never heard it in terms of the facts and the news. But actually, you're right. At this present day and time, that can feed your anxiety and feed your fears more than anything else. So, really, kudos for taking some real positive steps to look after the mental health of yourselves and your family through lockdown. That's incredible to hear. Have you seen God just at work in your lives through lockdown, or is it just life has continued as normal?
Not in any miraculous way. No, I say not in any miraculous way. Actually, do you know what? Yes, when you consider, throughout my career, I've been in construction. So every time there's a recession or something like that, it just gets demolished. So much so that people will go, "Are you worried about your job?" And it's like, no, because my jobs come and go so often. But God looks after us through those. We're sensible with it, aren't we? And we're sensible how we do things. But God's looked after us time and time again. And I think even through this furlough system and the way the government is trying to look after us, famous last words when you see the backlash on our taxes next year. But at the moment, the way that the government are looking after us and things like that, you go, actually, do you know what? Perhaps God has got a hand in this. I think we were looking at different career and job opportunities only a few months ago, and if we took certain steps, we'd be in a very different situation now. So you think, so potentially it'd be wrong of us to say, no, we haven't seen God in it, because it's been a very smooth path. And I think it could have very easily been not so smooth. Everything from, like, say, mental health to job positions to family life, even if my dad was still around this few months later, it would be very different. So I think God's time is everything, isn't it? And I don't know. What one Bible verse I really live by, and I would like to say I can remember what it is, in Proverbs. Is it Proverbs 3 verse 6 or something, where trust in the Lord with all your heart, rely not on what you think you know, and pray to him in everything you do, and he'll straighten your path. And years ago I heard that verse, but instead of pray to him in everything you do, it was remember him in everything you do, which is very different. Because one is, for me, stopping and praying. The other is just considering God being next to you. And that's kind of how I live my life.
Yeah.
So really, there are ups and downs, massive ups and downs. Yeah. But the majority of the time, I think the older I get, more when something hits me, I like to kind of just stop and go, actually, where's this at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, God is in our family, and he is, but it's through the little things where it's been a very smooth ride compared to how it could be.
I love that answer.
I'd hate for somebody to go, well, why isn't God helping me the same? Because it's just different.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more about our response to these things. You'll never stop the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows, but it's all about how we respond to those things.
And we've probably had a lot of serious ups and downs to the point where things don't rock you quite as much, because we have had, we've seen big recessions. I've lost my job while Jen was on maternity with James, while James was booked into hospital to have his kidney removed. So you end up doing rubbishy jobs just to earn a bit of money to keep things going. So we've had difficult times that you kind of go, actually, this isn't so difficult now.
Yeah. I love that answer, because you've taken so many people here, almost what you heard at first was where have you seen God at work, and you think, I haven't seen this amazing big miracle of something change, but actually you've seen God just in the situation that's working out. You've talked about the smoothness of him there and the fact that he's been with you through this. And actually I love that, because that's the simplicity of who God is. And I think sometimes we can spend our lives searching for this big God moment, and truthfully he's just been next to us, making that way slowly day by day. And the fact you talked about, you've been through ups and downs there before, and God's been with you through them, that shows a real maturity in Christianity, that actually you've lived through tough times and God's been with you through them. So why wouldn't God be with you in this one? I mean, and Gemma's response of, it's what we do, it's our choices through that. I think sometimes we don't feel we've got a choice on how we respond. But I think when you feel that, that's a real negative on your soul and your mental health. Whereas when you realize you have a choice on how you live and how you respond, God gives us that choice and he walks with us through that. It has a massive positive effect, not just on yourselves, but on all those people around you as well.
For me, that's really important as well, because Dave mentioned something about he wouldn't even want to say, oh yeah, God's done this amazing thing, because somebody else somewhere will be saying, well, why hasn't God done that for me? And that, I think that for me is something that I find really important, because I don't like to think that we have a capricious God who chooses to do something great for somebody but not for somebody else for no discernible reason. But for me, I am much more comfortable with the idea that we have a God that works in us and in our hearts and in our responses to everything else that we have no control over.
Yeah, I love it. That is just, honestly, it's such a lot. Almost, I really hope whoever's watching this, they've waited for this part, because it's just some truths that you're hitting there is fantastic. Just as we continue in lockdown, as we draw this to a close, is there any advice that you want to give to anybody just to keep themselves in that positive journey, on that positive step forward? Is there any advice that you could give right now to anyone on that journey? Can
I say something on the homeschooling front?
Yeah.
Please do not beat yourselves up if you are struggling to teach your kids and to do the work with your kids. I'm a teacher, I'm a maths teacher, so I know maths inside out, and I know I can do that and I can nail that. But I've had years and years of experience to get me to the point where I can do that. When I've got to go and teach them something else that I know nothing about really in any depth, I'm suddenly thinking, well, I don't know the best way to teach them such and such. And it's important for people at home to realise that if you haven't been trained in a way to teach something, then you haven't been trained, and that's fine. And the best you can do is support your kids to just do what you can do with them, and don't beat yourselves up over it. You don't have to worry about, oh, are they going to be behind or anything like that, because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody has got the same situation going on.
That's amazing. Wow. I think a lot of parents do need to hear that, and being a teacher and a parent as well, really lovely to hear almost from you who wears both hats. So thank you very much. Dave, is there any advice you could offer us, putting you on the spot?
No, I just think like we've already said many times, just really, if you're struggling, I'm guessing that everybody that's watching this is part of the church, so speak to someone in the church would be a good port of call first. And don't get too caught up in conversations about lockdown and virus. I know it's very difficult to talk about anything else, nothing else is happening. But try not to let it take over your whole life. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Thank you. And finally, just to close, is there anything we as people from Riverside, what can we be praying for the pair of you? What can we be doing just to keep you pair up in our prayers? What could we pray for?
Rather than specifically us, could you please pray that over the next few weeks, as children start to go back to schools potentially, that schools are able to navigate this in a way that keeps everybody safe?
Definitely. I'm going to speak on behalf of everyone watching and say, yes, we can. And that means if you're watching this now, you have to pray that. So, sorry, guys. Job done. Anything, Dave, that you want prayer for?
No, that's a really good prayer. That'd be really good.
Do you know what? A man that agrees with his wife is a man that is full of wisdom. That's what I've learned from my time with Liz. So, but I want to thank you both for joining us for the Monday Mystery Meeting. Thank you for just being so open and honest with us. It's lovely just to hear what life's looked like for you over the last 9 weeks. So thank you both so much, and have a great week.
And you.
Yeah.
Bye.